Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And previously we talked about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the circumstances of his movement to establish the oneness of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And we should be reminded that Islam is not a newfound religion, but it is what we call the religion of Adam alayhi wasalam, the religion of Abraham alayhi wasalam, Isaac and Ishmael, Jesus, Moses, all of the Prophets sallam talked about the same thing. This is why we say, Miftahu Jannati Shahadatu ila illallah, the key to Jannah is La ilaha illallah. And on ITV, I hope, to further illustrate some of these important factors which gave rise to the growth and development of Islam in America. My name, in case you don't know, is Imam Abdul Baqi. I was the former chairman of the Justice Committee of the Islamic Leadership Council. Currently, I'm working with the Southeast Queens Muslim Collective, and I'm the Imam of Tawheed, the Center for Islamic Development. And we should thank the brothers and sisters from ITV for taking on this particular endeavor, to clarify a lot of lies, distortions, and misconceptions about Islamic growth and development in America. And the reason I started with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because he set the groundwork for Islamic movement. And as we say, movement, we have the global Islamic movement, why and how, by Shamim Siddiqui. And Shamim Siddiqui, alhamdulillah, although he has passed away, may Allah be pleased with him, points out that Islam began to spread this concept of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see Muslims going out towards China. You see Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu taking Islam into China, others going up into Europe, Muslims going towards the Levant, going towards Syria, Palestine, Egypt, bringing these areas under the fold of Islam. And I want to illustrate that it was not for the purpose of oppressing the people, it was for the purpose of liberating the people from oppression, because for decades, if not centuries, they were living under the Roman rule, and the Romans were oppressing them and forcing them, to give tribute towards Rome or the Eastern Roman Empire. So Islam gave rise to civilization. We had, after the so-called prophethood, we had kingships. You had the Abbasid, you had the Umayyad dynasty, the Fatimid dynasty, the dynasties of Iran. We had the development of Muslim influence inside of Europe. Many people, especially Europeans, don't know that when Islam came into Europe, Islam did not come in as a oppressive force. Islam came in there to establish justice, because the so-called Visigoth king, or whatever case may be, he had raped the man's wife, and the man wanted justice for himself. So he asked the Muslims to come into Europe. So in 711, Tariq ibn Ziyad, may Allah be pleased with him, landed on the rock of Gibraltar. And he told the people, he says, all of these ships, there's no turning back for us. He says the only reality is to go into this area, establish justice, eradicate these forces, and build an Islamic reality. At that time, the Muslims had moved across, and they had defeated the so-called Persians. They had defeated the so-called Eastern European Empire, the Byzantine Empire. They had defeated the so-called Roman influence inside of what we call the Middle Eastern area. They had liberated North Africa. They had moved across North Africa and merged and mixed with the Berbers to establish Islam in Northern Africa. We have Algiers, we have Morocco, Tunisia, and all of these areas the Muslims begin to move conservatively to spread the message and to say, La ilaha illallah wa Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that after prophethood, we must, establish justice in the world and in society. And so for 750 years, close to 800 years, the Muslims established in Europe a strong foundation for Islamic governance. And this was under the auspices of what they call the Moors. And we should remember that the Moors themselves, were just no more than Muslims coming from, different particular areas, from North Africa, from West Africa, from all throughout the Muslim realm. And so we see Islam was a very liberating factor. So for 750 years, we took Europe out of the Dark Ages. We built 17 universities all throughout that. And the irony of it, that when we hear names like Granada, Seville, Toledo, we think that these are cars. But this is what they do to you when they destroy your history, your culture, your language. They take those names, which is exalted, and they debase them. Yeah, this is a Seville, a car. This is a Toledo, another vehicle. This is, Granada, another vehicle. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to further clarify the situation and so on and so forth. So after the Prophet's death and he was buried, Umar ibn Khattab took Islam, and he went against the Persians. And so why did he fight against the Persians? Because the Persians tore up the letter. They tore up the letter of the Prophet inviting to Islam. In the letter, the Prophet said, let us come together and we will worship no God but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that we will be just. And if you accept this thing, then your people will not be harmed. And that they can go on. But the Persian king, he tore the letter up. The Byzantine king, he sent the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a gift. He sent him a gift of I think, some leather socks, and he sent him a gift. But he did not negate the message. But they, in the Battle of Mu'tah, they sent an army to destroy Islam in the Arabian Peninsula, because the people in the northern part of Arabia was Christians. And they did not like the expansion of Islam, even though Islam did not come to destroy their culture, but to exalt them and to bring them ukhuwa imaniya into the collective brotherhood of Islam. And so we see that Umar ibn Khattab, he sent Zayd, not Zayd, Allahumma sallam wa sallam Allah, Ubay bin Ka'b. He sent Ubay bin Ka'b and Ubaidah bin Samit to go into Egypt and to talk to the people there and to ask them to accept Islam. And when Islam went into Egypt, they did not go into Egypt as an invaded force. They went into Egypt solely on the basis of establishing brotherhood. And the irony of it, that when Ubaidah bin Samit came to them, they said to him about him, "What manner of man is this? You come we do not deal with you people. Why? Because Ubaidah bin Samit was a dark-skinned man. He was a dark-skinned Arab. And they were very prejudiced at that time because racism was all pervasive wherever the Europeans went. It became a scientific doctrine in the, let's say, the 1800s or the 19th century. But today, inshallah, it is a global thing. And we'll speak about that in further discussions. And I want to, talk about some of the other Khulafa Rashidin. Of course, we had Abu Bakr. He was first and foremost. He was the one who sent the Muslims outside of the Arabian Peninsula at a time even when the Muslims were going through internal things. Why was that? Because he said if the Prophet ﷺ, commanded this army to go forward in the fight and to avenge the death of Muta, then I'm not going to stop it. Only thing he asked was that Umar ibn Khattab, who come with him. And so therefore our next discussion will be to close out with the factors that the Muslims leadership has done many different things to benefit mankind. And the reason I'm giving you this backdrop is because when we get to Islam in America, we have to understand about Islam in Europe, Islam in Africa, and how these things came into existence.